Come on now. The bank account with all them zeros is already yours. The body that you want is already yours. That car that you already want, you just got to go pick up the key. We both know you have what it takes to achieve your goals. We both know that you have what it takes to get the things that you want to in life. But we also both know that it's time that you become serious and honest with yourself, sometimes about why you haven't achieved those things, but also about how you are going to achieve those things. So in this video, I want to ask you 6 questions that I want you to answer for yourself to figure out how you are going to make this year your best year yet. The first one is, what would I regret not doing if this was my last year alive? I think this question is so imperative, not only for the short time span that it has, but actually figuring out exactly what you want to do. One thing I've realized for myself is sometimes I've made goals for the sake of making goals. I've said I wanted to do things for the sake of wanting to do things. I wanted to achieve things for the sake of wanting to achieve things. But it wasn't really something that I truly wanted to do and that was really of importance to me. And I think when you give yourself a 1-year time span, first and foremost, it allows you to make a hierarchy. What is really important and what is really not that important. But then also, we have to be honest with ourselves. In 1 year, you cannot achieve every single thing. In 1 year, you cannot go to every single place. You can't meet everybody. You can't make certain amounts of money. You know what I'm saying? But you can go after things. And there also are some things you can achieve in a year. But I just want you to think about that. Like, what will you regret? 1 year from today, if I was to say lights out, 1 year from today, if I was like, all right, well, that's all you can do, what would you regret not doing in this year? And I think that's what you should think about making your goals around. That's how you should figure out how to make your goals specifically for you. Like I said before, it's so easy to make goals for the sake of making goals, wanting to do things for the sake of wanting to do things. But like, what would you actually want to do in this year? And not only just what would you want to achieve in this year, what would you want to do? Because I think sometimes too, we get too hyper fixated on achievement. Oh, I have to achieve this thing and it's going to take me forever to achieve this thing and get this thing. But sometimes too, you don't realize if you really enjoy doing something, if you really like doing something, you also fall in love with the journey. It's kind of like being an artist. Like once an artist makes a piece of art, yes, it's great to display it and it's great to show people and get the oohs and the ahs. But that process that it took of making that art is what's really the beauty. The process that it took of knowing how to make art and how to replicate that thing. And you know what I'm saying? Building that skill set and just enjoying that thing a lot of times too feels a lot better than just displaying it. It feels good to displaying it and achieving it and possibly selling it. But I want you to also understand in this year, I want you also to take the time of saying, what do I want to go after? Even if I don't achieve this thing exactly the way I wanted it to, even if I don't get this thing exactly how I wanted to get it, what will I regret saying I didn't even go after that thing? I didn't even try that thing. I didn't even see the possibilities that I could have had to do that thing. I put myself in a place, in a space where I said, I don't have enough time, because we do that with ourselves too, right? We tell ourselves, oh, I don't have enough time to achieve this in 1 year. I don't have enough time to achieve this in 12 months. Well, if I tell you that's all you got is 12 months, what you gonna do with it? But I think that's one question I really want a lot of people to ask themselves. What would you regret not doing if you only had 1 year to be alive? The next one is, what do you want to feel when you accomplish these goals? The reason why this is so imperative is because you have to understand the importance of feeling and how you attach feeling to every single thing and everyone. For example, as time goes on, you don't always necessarily remember what people said to you. And sometimes you don't even correctly remember what people did to you, but you remember the feeling that they give you. Even if you think about it, what is the reason why we love songs from our upbringing? Like everyone has songs when they were growing up and every generation says they don't make music like this no more. The music is not the same. And a lot of times too, when you're younger, you didn't even really understand what the music was saying, but you can listen to the music now and it could just make you so happy and it could just make you so excited and these great feelings. It's because your body is remembering that feeling that you felt when you first listened to that song, when you first went to that place, when you first had that memory. And so the same thing I want you to understand is with goals. I truly feel like a goal can't be worthwhile if you cannot attach a feeling to it. But the problem with that is you have to make sure you attach the correct feeling to it, because then I personally feel like it can actually let you down if you attach the incorrect feeling to it, or sometimes it can make you not even achieve the goal because you attach the incorrect feeling to something that you necessarily wouldn't feel. An example of this can be, I think I've used this before. Someone graduating college, right? There can be one individual that's like, I'm graduating college to make my family proud. I'm graduating college because I'm the first person in so and so my generations, and I really want to do this and all this other stuff. And what do? They probably do make their family proud on graduation day and possibly the day after when they get cards and hugs and kisses. But then after a month goes by, their family's going to expect them to get a job because that's what you're supposed to do. And there's some individuals that can feel really let down because their whole reason for doing this thing, sticking college out and doing all this, was to give their family that feeling of feeling proud of them, was to give their family that feeling of whatever the case may be, and to give themselves the feeling of making their family proud and making them this. And so that was a short-term feeling. I'm not saying that you can't have short-term feelings, but you have to be honest with yourself, because that person a month or two later is going to feel down. Like, dang, y'all not proud of me? Dang, y'all not. Yeah, we are, but now you have to get this show in a row. Another way I can say this example is there's two people that are in college, right? But they both want to have the same feeling. They're like, okay, I want to go to college because I want to build discipline. And, when I graduate and get that diploma, I'm going to feel like I have so much discipline. I stuck it out and I worked hard and I did all this other stuff. And I'm going to build so much confidence in myself that I can stick out hard things. And I'm proud of myself for that, right? There's one person, they have a study schedule. They sometimes miss going out to parties. They're very disciplined on how they do their work. They take their notes, all this other stuff. They're always paying attention in class. But then there's another person who oftentimes is not paying attention in class. Oftentimes sometimes not even going to class, and they're going to class hungover, and they're really not really, being disciplined. They're not really, doing all the things that they said they're going to feel when they graduate college. And so one of those people, the person that didn't do the things that they said they were going to do, they feel like, dang, well, that's it. Like, that's just like, wow, I just grabbed my diploma and that's it. While that other person used that as a platform to build confidence. While that other person says, you know what this diploma is? This diploma is more than a piece of paper. This diploma shows the nights that I stayed up late. This diploma shows, and because they really did those things, they can use that feeling to boost them to do other things and to prove to themselves, look, I can do this, I can do that. Why? Because I did something else before. And so that's why I think it's very imperative for you to know the feeling that you want to get from something, because first and foremost, it gives you direction. See, the person who told themselves the feeling of graduating was going to give them discipline, it was going to make them feel confident, all these other things, the reason why they felt let down is because they did not use their own direction. They were not being disciplined when they were going after that thing, I should say. They were not being, consistent, whatever the case may be. And I think that's very imperative. Now, don't get me wrong. There are certain things that you just want to achieve for the sake of achieving them. But I think you have to be honest with yourself about what feeling do you want that thing to give to you? Do you simply want to lose weight because you just want to look good in a bikini? Or do you want to lose weight because you want to build discipline, because you want to build consistency, because you want to build a healthy lifestyle? That's the feeling that you want to give to yourself when you lose the weight. Or do you just want to get on any fast diet or any fast fasting, if you will, just to lose weight? And I mean, I'm not saying either one is better than the other, but I don't know, one thing I've realized about life is I have to be honest with myself about the feeling that I want to have when I achieve something, because I've had things that I've achieved before and I did not give the correct feeling to, or if any feeling to, and I might have achieved those things and it just felt like, you get what I'm saying? It's like you might have cried for certain things, you might have begged for certain things, and then you achieve it, it feels like, or you don't achieve certain things and you're kind of like, why can't I achieve this thing? Why can I? Because you didn't attach the correct feeling to this thing, your feeling to this thing. And like I said before in the beginning with the analogy of when you were a kid, and that's why when you listen to music from growing up, you have that happy feeling. You can continue. I can listen to early 2000s music on repeat. Like, that's honestly, if I'm being honest, all I've been listening to lately. I don't even really listen to like a lot of newer stuff because I don't know, I just been in that zone, that mode, and it just feels so great. But it's because of that feeling. And I don't know, I think that's something I've realized with a lot of my goals as well. Like, I have to make sure I attach a feeling to it, because if I don't, it will not be worthwhile. So I want you to ask yourself, what feeling for all the goals that you have for yourself do you want to feel when you do those things? The next question I want you to ask yourself is, if I were already the person that I wanted to be, how would I have changed yesterday? I think this is an imperative question as well, because it's so easy for us to look out. It's so easy for us to look so far forward, right? And think about, oh my gosh, when the beginning of the month come, when the beginning of the year come, when Monday come, whenever, this certain day comes, that's when I'm gonna start. That's when I'm gonna start doing this. And we've all done it before. We built up these systems, these goals, these whatever in our head. And a lot of times they tumble. But I really want you to be in the moment with yourself. I think sometimes too, we look at it as being so far out, and that's why it's so easy to create a picture of it. But I don't even want you to draw it. I want you to step into it. And I really want you to ask yourself, what would you have changed about yesterday if you were the person that you wanted to be? Instead of always dreaming of that person being so far out, I want you to think about that person being here right now. Walk into that person being who you are right now. What time would you have woken up differently? What time would you have went to sleep differently? What would you have done when you came home from work or school? Like, really picture yourself in the current moment. Because a lot of times too, I think it's easier to be realistic with yourself. It's so easy to create this 15-step plan, or I'm gonna do this, and it's my morning routine, that's my night routine, and da-da-da-da-da. But when you literally can look at what happened yesterday, what are some of the hiccups that happened in your day? What are some of the setbacks that might have happened in your day that were just normal things? It might have been traffic, it might have been one of your coworkers annoying you, it might just things that normally happen. And I want you to ask yourself, if you were the person that you wanted to be today, what would you have done differently about yesterday? And I think that's a question I want people to start asking themselves on a consistent basis. What would you have done differently yesterday? What would you have done differently yesterday? Ask yourself the next day, what would you have done differently yesterday? So you can start crafting how you want your tomorrows to be. I think it's so hard to create a tomorrow that is for you. It's so hard to create a tomorrow that you truly believe in, that you're truly aligned with, because you keep trying to create your next months. You keep trying to create your next years. You keep trying to create a time period in which you don't even know what's going to be going on. Like, there's so much that can happen between a 1 month time period. There's so much that can happen between a 1 week time period. And then what's going to happen? Oh, well, this happened, so now I have to adjust. Oh, well, that happened, so now I have to change. But if you go step by step, day by day, literally just by asking yourself, what would you have done differently yesterday if you were the person that you wanted to be? How would you have changed yesterday from when you woke up to when you went to sleep? The next one is, what patterns in my life do I keep repeating, and what does this say about my internal state? This question is one that I've been wrestling with a lot lately, and this is one I want a lot of people to think about, because this is one that digs deeper into not necessarily even what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Because if you're anything like me, especially when I started my self-care journey, self-growth journey, there was this thing of trying to figure out, I want to watch videos on how to be consistent because I'm not consistent. I want to watch videos on how to build motivation because I don't have motivation. I want to, listen to podcasts, watching videos, reading books. There was this thing of me just feeling like I just have to learn how to do this thing. And I think sometimes too, the problem happens is it separates us from that thing. Like, we look at that thing as being like a dragon we have to slay, or a monster that we have to slay. And like, once we slay that thing, once we figure out exactly how to do it, then that thing will be completely gone. And I had to realize, no, everything that you do, we are creatures of habits. Everything that you do is telling you something about you. But the problem is, we look at it as being a piece of us that we don't want. We look at it as something that it's a cancerous piece of us, right? We just have to slice it off. We just have to get rid of it. And once we're rid of it, then our life will be good and it'll be great. An example I can give you guys of this is, recently I've had an addiction. It's funny saying that word, but to books, specifically romance books. And I know this sounds so crazy, and it's like, really? Romance books? Yes. To the point where I will literally come home from work. I won't even really eat for real. Like, I literally will just drink water, use the bathroom, and read for hours until it's time for me to go to sleep. And another problem is, I won't even go to sleep the time I'm supposed to go to sleep. I have a bedtime. I have a certain time I wake up. I have a certain time I go to sleep. To make sure I get 8 hours of sleep every single night, I will go past my bedtime. I will tell myself, once I come home, I'm going to get ready for the video. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to write down what I'm going to talk about, all this other stuff. Still don't do it. It has literally become an addiction. It's so crazy to say it, reading books, but specifically romance books. Like, they've become an addiction to me, literally to the point where I read them on Kindle, but on my iPad. I've literally had to let my iPad die and put the charger somewhere where like I wouldn't want to get it, like leave it in my car or something like that. Literally just so I do not read more books. It's become a problem. And I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do so I don't read anymore? What can I do? You know what I'm saying? Kind of similar to the people who are like, I want to be consistent. What can I do to be consistent? What can I do to build up this? What can I do to build up that? But then when I ask myself, what is this saying about my internal state? I've come to the conclusion that what it's really saying, the reason why I love these romance books so much is because as far as career-wise, right, I feel like I'm going in a good direction. But as far as lifestyle-wise, I'm about to be 25 years old, and there's things about my life, my personal life, that I would have thought I would have achieved already. Things that I would have been in the direction of going after that I haven't even started yet. And so reading these books gives me a fantasy. Reading these books honestly takes me out of the current moment that sometimes I don't want to be in, and it allows me to live in this fantasy world, and I love it. Like, and I know that I love it because like I have like a specific type of book that I read too that I just know like, okay, this is like very niche. Nonetheless, I've realized that about myself. It was a pattern. It was something that I kept on repeating. It was something that I couldn't stop. And instead of me trying to figure out, okay, what are the ways I can, do I need to undownload the app? Do I need to undo my subscription? Do I need to, instead of trying to figure out all these things to avoid it, I had to sit down with myself and ask myself, but why do you keep on struggling with this thing? And I realized it's a personal thing. Personally, I feel like I'm not where I want to be in life. And so now that's a deeper question for me to get onto. Okay, so how can you get where you want to be? What are some things that you could do to get further in this direction? But I don't know, I feel like that's a question a lot of people need to ask themselves when they keep on making the same mistake, when they keep on, even sometimes too, being late. Like that, and this sounds so crazy, but I literally have learned that I get an adrenaline rush from being late. Like I love convincing myself that I can do my hair, makeup, everything in 30 minutes. Like it's like an ultimate game for me. I tell myself that every single time, I fail every single time, and I'm always driving somewhere late. But it's like, why do you keep doing that? If you know you keep going late, if you know you keep, and I had to ask myself internally, instead of trying to convince myself to make all these alarms and do this and do that, I had to be honest with myself and be like, you like the adrenaline rush. You like the rush of feeling like you can't do one thing wrong. You like the rush of feeling like this is the final decision. This is that. And I don't know, it sounds a little weird, but saying it out loud, but I just want a lot of people to ask themselves that, like, what do you keep repeating in your life that you know is not good for you? What is the thing that you keep doing? And ask yourself, what does that say about you internally? Anything that you're struggling with, whether it's you cleaning your room, whether it's you going back to that individual, what is something that you keep repeating that you want to stop? And instead of trying to put all of these barriers in place, ask yourself, what internally does that say about you? The next one is, what is the worst thing that can happen if I go all in? I think this one is so imperative because I think too many people hold themselves back physically, but it all is in their mental. There's too many times where you convince yourself that the worst thing is going to happen and this thing is going to be the end of you and this thing is going to be the worst that ever happened inside your entire life and it's going to change your entire life, because it's all in your mental of what is the worst thing that can happen, and this thing holds you back from actually achieving so many things. And I recently had a conversation with one of my friends, and she had started this business in like 2020, but she ended the business shortly after. And I was asking her recently, like, hey, you ever thought about doing it again and all this other stuff? And she kind of was just like, yeah, but I will have to buy all new products. And I'm like, yeah, because your products are old. Like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, but like, what if I waste money? And I was just kind of like, money is supposed to be spent. Like, I don't really think like, you get what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's just like, that's what you're supposed to do with money. You're supposed to spend it, especially if it's something that, you want to do. But with that conversation I got from it, too many people live in their head of what is the worst thing that can happen. And the problem with living in your head too much is because you're not realistic with yourself. Like I said, going back to my friend, money is made to be spent. And it's so easy for so many people to be like, what if I waste my time? You know how much time you've wasted doing things you know you weren't supposed to do, doing things that probably brought you sadness? You know how much money you've wasted possibly doing things that you weren't supposed to do, things that pushed you back. And so it's so easy for you to convince yourself you're not going to do something because you might waste time, you might waste money, you might waste the summer, you might waste energy. But if you really look at your life, you've wasted all of that before. And I don't mean this with no disrespect. I mean this because I've done that to myself before too. There's been time periods in my life where I was afraid to invest into a business. I was afraid to invest into doing a course because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to waste time. Oh my gosh, what if I lose money? But then how many hours, if I calculate, have I spent just sitting in the bed on my days off? How much money have I spent ordering Uber Eats or ordering DoorDash or something like that simply because I didn't want to get up yesterday and go to the grocery store? Like, let's not sit here and make it seem like we're all so time management and money management, because if we're really going to go down to it, we waste a lot of it. But I really want you to be honest with yourself and tell yourself, I'm not willing to go after my dreams. I would much rather someone say to themselves, I don't want to go after my dreams, instead of trying to create this fictitious worst case scenario in their head. But another thing I want people to really ask themselves is, if that thing was to happen, how would I recover from that thing? That's a deeper question. Because yes, things may happen, but I also look at life, if I can think about the worst case scenario, then I can also think about the best case scenario. And yes, if the worst case scenario was to happen, I think the question you should be thinking about is, how will I recover from that thing? See, that's the question too many people don't ask themselves. They just convince themselves, oh, it's going to be bad, or it's not going to work out, so I shouldn't do it. But it's like, if the worst thing does happen, how would I recover? What would I do? I think that's the thing that most people are honest with themselves about. And that's the question that they're scared to ask themselves. How will I recover from this thing? Because bad things happen every single time. When you get a car, if you have a car, you know how many times, especially if you had your car for 2 years plus, how many times have you got a scratch in your car? How many times if you had went to get your brakes fixed or whatever the case may be? That comes with the game. And it's not something that just, listen, all of a sudden something appear on your dashboard. All of a sudden the tire pop. It's not something that you get, oh, in 2 weeks, it's going to be, you're going to get a check engine light. In 2 weeks, no, it just happens. And what do? You do the next step to help that thing. You do the next step after to, you get what I'm saying? Prevent that thing. But I don't know. I think a lot of people just need to be honest with yourself and just ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen if you went all in? What's the worst that can happen if you missed out on this summer because you had to get your life together? What's the worst that can happen if for some people missed out on this year? For some people missed out on a couple dollars. For some people missed out on sleep. What's the worst that can happen? For a lot of people, it's just not going after your goals. You just don't want to go after your goals. But just say that to yourself. I don't want to achieve my goal. That will be a lot better than you convincing yourself that the worst thing is going to happen and that's why you shouldn't even start it. It makes no sense to do it because you're not going to be able to get it. Because that's not true, and you know that as well. The final question I want you to ask yourself is, what is one action step I can take today that will compound into massive results next year? This one is so imperative because if you've come to the end of the video, this means that you probably are serious about accomplishing your goals. It means you are serious about growth. But I want you to understand, similar to what I said about imagining yourself yesterday, it starts with one step. It starts with one day. And I don't want to create one of those videos that people hear and they get so much motivation from and they feel so good inside, but then they actually don't do anything. And I really want you to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, if I'm serious about doing this thing that I say I want to do, about changing my life, about achieving my goals, what is one step I can do that will compound? And the reason why I say compound is because another problem that too many people have is out the gate, you want to go so hard. But I want you to think about this in this way. If you were to compound your growth doing push-ups, right? Let's say today you did 2 push-ups. You could do 2 good, solid push-ups. I say that because that's how many I can do. If I was to do 2 solid push-ups every single day for a month, by next month, I probably can do a good 5 solid push-ups. I did 5 solid push-ups every single day. By the 3rd month, I probably could do like 15 push-ups. So and so and so. By the end of the year, I probably could do about 100 push-ups. But it started with today, me doing 2 push-ups. The idea behind it is you have to figure out what are the little things you are going to do that is going to compound your growth. Because imagine how my body would look if I can do 100 push-ups. Imagine how much discipline I would have built up if I could do 100 push-ups. You know what I'm saying? But if you think about it, if I say right now do 100 push-ups, it's like, oh, whoa, that don't even make no sense. But if I say you start with 2 and you go to 100, that seems like it's a lot more achievable. That seems like it's a lot more manageable. The problem that so many people have is you're trying to start with your 100 today. You're trying to go out the gate today. You're trying to go hard today. And it's like, that's great that you have that motivation. It's great that you have that fuel. That's great that you have that goal that you want to achieve. But I want you to figure out what is going to be your 2 push-ups today. And for some people, it might literally be 2 push-ups. But what are you going to start with today that you are going to compound growth with? What are you going to start with today? Because I want you to understand with compound growth, it's not a thing of, oh, you put $1 in, you put $1 in, you put $1 in. No, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You achieve more and more and more. It is greater and greater and greater. And so I want you to really think about that. Like, what are you going to do today that is small? What are you going to do today that honestly is it might even be easy for you if you really want me to be honest, but it seems so easy that you don't even do it. That's the craziest part about it. There's so many things that we can do, but we don't do them because we don't think that they're going to make any difference in our life because they're so easy. But I want you to understand that's where compound growth starts. It starts at the bottom and then it goes up by percentage. It goes up by percentage. It's not one of those things that just goes up one step, one step, one step. No, compound growth is getting on an elevator. It is going it's going up, 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 up. First, it's going to start slow. Yeah, it's going to start slow. It's going to start slow. But once it start going up, the sky's the limit. And so I want you to ask yourself, we've already thought about some goals that you want to achieve that are going to give you that feeling that you want to accomplish. We already talked about goals that you want to achieve that if you only had 1 year left, you will regret not going after, not trying to get. So now I want you to ask yourself today, what is one small thing, possibly one even easy thing that you are going to start doing because you want this to become part of your habit. You want this something that you want to build upon. You want this to become part of who you are, but you know that this is easy for you right now and you want to get a little bit better, but it starts with one thing. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm so excited for the new year that is upon us. I have so many goals and dreams and aspirations for myself, and I know so many of you guys do as well. So I think it's great to just reflect. I think it's great to question yourself. I think it's great to really just get to the bottom of all the things that you want to do and who you truly are. Because as I said in the beginning of the video, it's so easy to have goals just to have goals, have aspirations just to have aspirations, have all of these things just to say, I achieved this thing. When you can literally say, no, I know why I'm achieving this thing. I know why I'm going after this thing. And I know the thing that is possibly holding me back from this thing. That is honestly, in my opinion, what not only makes it worthwhile, but also makes a lot of these things that seem so far out, so hard, actually achievable when you know why they are truly for you. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.